Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Bert McGurk, a.k.a. PR, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and we are here once again with the man with the plan, Ryan. Ryan, how's it going, boss?
What is happening, Alberta? So good to see you.
I know, right? It feels like forever, right?
Oh, it has, man. I want to clap it up. I want to clap it up for PR King of Hearts, Gilberto over here. I don't know anyone who comes in and presents any smoother than you. It is just, you make it look so easy. It makes us jealous. You gotta take notes, my goodness.
Not even, man. I'm trying to keep up with the rest of you guys.
But it's been, we were just talking, it's been a busy summer, right? It's been
Yes. Especially for parents, I believe. I believe it's just been more hectic for us trying to figure out, like I mentioned before, when school isn't in play or nothing like that, you start forgetting that, even though you go to work every day and that doesn't change whether it's summer, winter, fall, or whatever, the kids need to have something to do. So you're always thinking about what you're going to do with the kids. And then, you get out from work and then you're trying to make sure they're enjoying their summer. So you try to plan things and you're still trying to keep on top of what you got to do normally. So it gets really hectic, man. I can only imagine.
Yet, if there is any time where guilt and shame sneak in as a parent, it's during the summer.
100%.
You feel like it's just never enough. They're insatiable for your attention and creative ideas. And I got to be honest, I got to give all the props and everything. My wife does a lot of the planning because she does a lot of the communicating with like other parents in the community. So she has her kind of, finger on the pulse of most of like what's going on. And it gives me room to, I think, pop in and, help out where I can for sure. Sometimes is what it feels like.
And nah, I hear you. It's always good though when you have a partner in crime, man, and they're there to back up things for you. And hi, Allie. Who's this? Hey, what's going on? Game worker Sally, how's it going? I'm a little bit confused right now. Maybe I'm not seeing all the chats and everything like that. But thanks for joining us. For anyone who is not familiar with Ryan, I had Ryan here as a guest speaker for episode 7 of season 2. So if you would like to go and get more, if you would like to learn more information about Ryan and what he has going on, make sure that you go and check that episode out, as well as go give him a follow and check out VeeDads as well. I'll have all his social media profile contact information in the description to wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. And yesterday we had a guest speaker by the name of Colton, who was a power lifter. And we were getting into fitness and going to the gym and bodybuilding and all this stuff like that. And he brought up nutrition and what he does to bulk up. And throughout the conversation and everything and doing some follow-up before our episode, I thought maybe this was a great time to just dedicate a full week to, fitness and well-being and trying to just do my part to shed some light on, just getting people more active and getting them moving. I see that you and BroFit and Josh and so many others are doing their part on speaking, not only just on mental health, but also on physical health and dietitian. And dieting. And I figured there's no other people better to speak to in this community than you guys. So I wanted to dedicate this week to that. Today we have Ryan on here, who is a sports dietitian, and he's going to help us basically see what we could do to get ourselves back on track and start off on the right foot. Right, Ryan?
That's right. I always say this, Gilberto. I think when it comes to nutrition, and I don't know who's going to do it, there's two things I say. I want to make sure that it's clear with a lot of people too. I think that, if you are like, you do you, if what you're doing is working for your health, your mindset, your definition of success, you do you, like no one should be able to tell you different, right? It's the truth. I also I heard this and it's not mine, but I thought it was just like, it's so poignant and so raw But the idea of like, when we talk about nutrition, it's just whatever gets in your face hole. Like, that's just like, when we talk about diet, we talk about nutrition, that's what gets in there. When we really get into everything else, right? I think what true nutrition really is, it's why and how it gets there. So for a lot of people, they talk about dieting, or they talk about a diet or a dietitian. And I think it's like, you have to approach it, number one, like, you're looking at everything when you first jump into it. And so we want to make sure that we know, when we start these conversations with nutrition, it's incredibly important to understand that there's going to be nuance, that it's different for everyone, and that any of the information that any hope anyone gives you is going to be somewhat evidence-based, number one. And then I think number two, is it practical? Like, the things that come off a white paper at a research, like, some of the shit doesn't even feel as if it's possible for the average person. So we have to understand if it's applicable, like, who's the population that we're actually talking to. So when we give these kind of things out, like, we are standing, what I like to say, we're standing on the shoulders of giants in research, right? Dr. Jose Antonio, Dr. Schoenfeld, right? Looking at even people who are out in the space right now that are more popular, that you might know, that are putting research out there, like Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, someone obviously more popular is going to be, well, I'm forgetting his name right now. My goodness, what's going on? Anyway, we have people that are putting out research all over the place, and I can name drop, but we have to make sure when we talk about these things, they got to be coming from somewhere. They can't be an N of one, right? They can't just be what your opinion and your feelings were. And I get really nervous sometimes when I see this information put out there. And I don't think people are staying curious enough. I don't think that they're staying open-minded enough. And I think that they're really talking more about their own personal opinion and their feelings versus facts, research, and I think really listening to the person that needs the information. So anyway, I'll step off my soapbox, but that was on my mind.
No, and I love that, and it's true. I think that it's just a lot of people that want to either jump into it, whether it's because they're anxious just to think that it's going to happen overnight, or whether people see that it's like a wave of popularity of how everyone wants to get in wants to get in shape and stay fit. So they think that they're qualified to start giving other people advice and start making diet plans for them, when really they don't even know what they're doing, and they don't take into consideration that not everybody's body's the same and it's going to react the same. I strongly agree with you. I think that there's not enough people that are curious enough, not enough people asking questions and getting involved so that they can properly learn what they could do. Not everybody has to go and get into getting in shape or dieting and have to go hardcore from day one. There's steps that you can take, there's things that you can do. And I believe that no one should really jump into anything, especially when it comes to something with your body, unless you're doing that proper 40 to 50 hours of research and really just doing the homework of what it is that you should be paying attention to, what you should start on, and who you should be listening to. Because it's like you said, there's so many people that want to claim that they know what they're talking about, or they're professionals, or that they have the necessary experience, and really they don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's a lot about making sure you're getting the proper information from the proper source, and I totally agree with that. And what are some misconceptions that you feel people have about healthy eating and nutrition, for whether they're an athlete or they're not an athlete?
Good question. And there's so many of them where I think it's good to boil some of them down, but they're fun. And I think the most fun I have is when we can teach people that there's no detriment, that there's no harm to some of the things that they've been told. Like, one being, I think we are almost pummeled in the face with protein, right? Everyone just talks about protein, and I get it. And it's something where, you might scoff at protein or think it's not important. You might be afraid of protein. You might be afraid of, talking about cholesterol, talking about something that's not pasture raised, whatever you're kind of thinking. But I think protein ends up having a lot of misinformation, I think, thrown around about it. One is that it's going to damage your kidneys if you end up eating too much. And unless you really have a compromised kidney and you're on dialysis, or end-stage renal disease, or any stage of renal disease whatsoever, your kidneys are fine. And it's going to be beneficial to make sure that you are getting, I'm going to say, an appropriate amount of protein in there. We can run through what appropriate is, and I think it would be a really good thing to really put a flag in that and come back to it. But I think people really get afraid of protein. They get afraid of certain things like protein supplements. I think they get lost in the the quality of some proteins. They get lost in the the type of proteins. And so you'll have these camps out there that it's like you can only have local, pasture raised, wild protein. And then I'm over here being like, all right, I hear you, but you know what? I see Susan over there, and Susan's struggling right now financially. There's no way that she's gonna buy that $30 piece of steak that's gonna last her one meal. Like, chill. And so if we keep pumping out that information about protein's unhealthy, or that you need to have a certain kind of protein, it scares people. It fearmongers, like on both sides of it, and it's an issue. I think the other thing on protein is like you have these camps of like it's only protein, and Gilberto, we live in such a binary culture, and especially when it comes to nutrition, people remain so binary that way, right? We can talk about red, blue, and black, white, whatever it's going to be. But especially when it comes to nutrition, like you have these camps, it's like it's only vegan or it's only carnivore. And, these two camps are just like firing missiles at each other this whole time, when really the safe area and where everyone is really getting most of the results are like right in the middle. It's just that's not fun or sexy. And so people don't want to spend time there. They want to go over here because it's what they see and it's the loudest. So it's really hard. I mean, you can think back to certain things, like think back to Game Changers recently. Well, not even recently. What was that, 4 or 5 years ago? Everybody wanted to be vegan. No one wants to be vegan now. And you know what? Everyone who bounced back and forth, they're likely in the same spot they were before. And just because they close their ears to what real, understanding of what individualized nutrition really is. So, protein is definitely one of them. I think the belief around, let's say supplementation, right? I think a lot of people will jump to supplementation and think it's the mushroom coffee that's going to help them out, or it's going to be something like it's just the addition of creatine, which I'm like a creatine groupie. So like, don't, I'm definitely not talking bad about it, but a lot of people jump to these supplements, right? And it's, again, pummeled in the face on social media with all these supplements too. But really, when we get down to it, we have to get the foundational things in there. And, I always talk about that, pyramid of nutritional prioritization, not the nutrition pyramid. It's not a thing, at least anymore, but it's something here where, you talk about nutrition. It's like, if you aren't eating enough energy or you're eating too much, you have an issue. You got to start there. Then you get into the quality of your calories, right? Your macronutrients, then micronutrients, and then timing of meals. And then finally you can get to supplements, but you have to rule out each level before you get to supplements. And so many people want that quick fix. And it's like, they just take that pyramid, they put it upside down, and they're thinking, nope, it's my gut. And so I got to pump this probiotic into me, or I got to pump this supplement into me, or that supplement into me. And I get it. Look, you open up any social media channel right now, and you're going to get hit by at least 2 or 3 supplements. So it's like that. I think the misconception is that that's the answer most of the time. So those are 2 big ones I think that I see right now, and I'm always really seeing. So.
And that's I'm happy that you brought that up, the whole misconception or the misinformation and how people misunderstand what protein is, and that there's different forms of protein that you can take. It's not necessarily just one versus the other. And I strongly believe, I do agree with you, man. I think that a lot of people, just based off of popularity, tend to sway to one side or another, or they think that this one's more right than the other just because they see it more on their phone, or excuse me, or they hear a specific type of thing talked about more often or frequently than the other. And honestly, it's just popularity based on what the topic is that they're discussing. I believe it is that's bringing that attention to those certain things or groups, and that's what's swaying people, because it's like you said, they see that a large group of people are on one side, so they tend to just want to go over there instead of actually doing the research and realizing that maybe it's not left or right that they need to be on, or one or the other, but it's smack dead in the middle where it's perfect for them. And I agree with you. It's just the fact that a lot of people don't take the time to actually put in the work and do the research to see what's good for them, because they're all just going by what's popular and what works for everybody else, not knowing that it's going to be very different for them. And you're not necessarily always going to get the right information online. It doesn't matter how much you're going to dig and sort through stuff or who you talk to. I strongly believe also that you'll learn better from your firsthand experience, in the sense of just going out there and just trying a few things yourself and seeing how your body reacts to it, and actually seeing if it's something that makes you feel good or better or worse, and helps you get closer to that goal that you're trying to reach. So I totally agree with you when it comes to just people feeling, just based off of what they see online or what they hear people talking about, that they just tend to stick to that topic, or think that that's the only way to get the results that they're looking for, instead of actually trying something different, something out of the box, and taking it a different way. But what you did mention that I want us to go back to is proper protein. What would you consider to be proper protein?
I have your answer, and it is, I love what you're saying. Again, want to always give you props, and anybody in the chat, always know that when you're watching Gilberto here talk, he does his research, and I think he gets ready, so thoughtful with his questions. And so thanks for coming back to that. And what you had said before, I think you're listening so well, is that people need to really test things out for themselves. And I love when people try something and it works, and no one should tell them different. And, I've had people that have been, they've done keto, they've done carnivore, they've been just vegan, they've fasted for 3 days, right? Now, I can point to all the things that I know may not be beneficial for someone's long-term health or for somebody's, current goals even. But you know what? There's been times where those people have come out in a better spot mentally and physically, and who's to tell them that it's wrong, right? That is what they've done, and we need to make sure that we're listening to that. I think what I will say is that most individuals don't really have a plan beyond that. And so that's where things become a little bit difficult, and that's where we see most people on this 3 to maybe 9 month plan of trying to follow some sort of fad diet. And again, you do you. If it worked for you, great. If you went keto and you lost, like there's someone in my life right now. Here, I'll give you 2 examples. There's 2 people in my life. One is a person that's pretty close to me. And this person, they went on Ozempic and they went keto. They lost 45 pounds in 3.5 months. You think I'm going to sit there and tell them that they did something wrong? They just improved their health. They're going to be around for their kids that much longer. Who am I to sit there and be like, oh, you know what? We have issues with the way that you did this. Because you know what? I think that certain of the GLP-1 inhibitors are actually really beneficial when we're using them appropriately. I think keto can be used really appropriately as well. And especially this person who just added years to their life and years to them being a dad in their kid's life. What's going on? But when I get in a conversation with them, what are you planning to do after this, right? They're like, well, you know what? I'm doing keto, but I don't know if I can kind of keep up with this kind of thing. And so, okay, what's the plan? Great. Now let's just look forward. I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to look back at anything. There's also someone else. There's a client of mine who, we've worked together for a while now. And you know what? He had some questions and he was like, I want to try Ozempic. It wasn't Ozempic. It was another one of the GLP-1 inhibitors. I gave him all the information I could. Good, bad, ugly, all of that stuff. Here you go. This is all the information. Get educated and let's talk about it. The guy did not really need to lose that much body fat, but you know what it was? It was affecting his mind in terms of how he was thinking about food and the food noise that was going on. And finally, when we really put him in the right place of this is the outcome that we should be looking for, he had a conversation with his doctor. He started the medication. He's not binging any longer. He's a more confident person all around. He's this like 55-year-old. I call him 007 because whenever I talk with him, he's in like the Alps skiing with with the other lawyers, or he's like in Italy, or he's somewhere in Mexico. But he's someone who like he has part of his life back because he's utilizing some of these things and it's working for them. But still, whoever I'm talking to, like even with him, I'm like, there's still biologically, like your body needs certain things. So we're going to work on that. Or even with the person that's close to me, closer personally in my life, hey, what's the plan after? Can I connect you with someone? Because you know what? You're not going to be able to stay on keto the rest of your life because it's probably not going to give you the goal that you actually want right now. And you know what? I've already been around you enough to know that you skipped that meal out with us. You weren't able to be with your kid at his birthday because you felt you couldn't eat the cake and you couldn't be around it, right? So those kind of things, we have to think about those and talk to the person and just not the overall, study. So I want to make sure we're kind of thinking about that. But it's a long way of me getting to the point of when we finally get to support someone, I'm always going to come from a place of muscle health. Coming from a muscle-centric point of view, I think is necessary. Because Gilberto, if we do anything in our life right now, if you want to give yourself a gift, you can give yourself the gift of muscle. And I know that might sound like a meathead type of thing, but it definitely is not. I will tell you the thing that is going to be associated with longevity is going to be your lean body mass. It's going to be muscle. It doesn't mean that you need to go to CrossFit gyms. It doesn't mean you need to be lifting incredibly heavy. But it does mean you have to move your body intentionally. It does mean you have to feed your muscle. You have to make sure you recover well enough. And people just aren't doing these things because they're trying to get attention, or they're looking for attention, and people are grabbing their attention in so many different ways, and they're not able to focus on themselves. So they're looking so external instead of internal. So when we start talking about nutrition, I'm always talking about making sure that we're supporting what I say, and it's kind of part of a tagline for me, but we want to make sure that we're working on your short-term body composition goals and your long-term health. And if we don't come from a place of keeping your muscle healthy, it's not going to work. And this is anyone. This is the person that just wants to walk, 8,000 steps in a day and do nothing else. This is someone who does want to lift 7 days a week. This is the marathoner. This is the CrossFit junkie. But it is something that we have to make sure we're thinking about. So when we start talking about nutrition, we have to know what the population really is. And I don't want that to sound like I'm muddying things up, but what I do want someone to take away from that is like whatever's going to work for someone over there and they're posting it all over socials doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So get curious, listen, but take what they said, take what you've done, take what you think is going to work for you, take what you think isn't going to work for you, and start to piece those things together. But you have to ask questions. You have to stay curious. You have to try all these things out too. So just want to make sure that we're looking at that. But when we're looking at things just like muscle health, we always do want to make sure that we're giving ourselves muscle. And so when I'm really thinking about how we do that, like it comes down to the science there. Like, what is going to help us grow muscle? Like, we have to look at what is going to be considered like muscle protein synthesis. So the guy you had on yesterday, I'm sorry, can you say his name again so I can refer? Colton. So like when you ended up having Colton on yesterday, it's something where, we want to make sure that what Colton is putting out there in powerlifting, that we're able to meet that from the nutrition side to keep something like nitrogen balance in the body appropriate for, again, muscle protein synthesis, which is basically me just saying being able to, repair muscle, rebuild muscle, keep muscle, and all those kind of things as well. And so there's certain thresholds for this. And this is where I start. And a lot of times it's like, I might keep this behind the curtains for people. And so like, here, this is what the changes are. These are the habits that you can change right now. They're going to help you. But behind the curtains, I've done all of this work to figure out who you are, what you've been doing, and what you need. But there are certain thresholds if you want to look at this right now and like, you know what, get some paper out. If you're someone who's thinking, I have to really set myself up well right now, I want to understand, this is macros we're going to talk about right now, but whether you talk calories, macros, or habits, it's going to come down to some of these things here. And so, I'm always going to get some type of understanding or some type of research in line with what I want to get to. Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, if you don't know who he is, again, one of the all-stars in all things muscle health, all things hypertrophy. And so I'm always going to go to him. But I mentioned before, Dr. Jose Antonio, part of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, or we're looking at, Dr. Chris Fry. And I can go down the list with these doctors that have done the research to understand what's going to keep muscle healthy. But most of the time where we're going to look at this is, for protein, we need to, again, know who you are. But usually somewhere, and sorry, I'm talking all to my domestic people right now because I've already converted all these things over to, let me see. I know I have my notes here. Just want to make sure I had those. Like, I might still have them in kilograms. I do. Any of my international friends, you're in luck. I can help you out. But when we're looking at protein, right? So if we're looking at something just like the amount that we need, we're always going to be sitting somewhere between that 0.73 to 1 gram of protein per pound. And so this is the part where I think a lot of people will usually overshoot because they're so protein happy. But the only issue with that is not health. It tends to be that I find that a lot of people are taking in additional calories and they're thinking, I can't hit my goals. I'm focusing on protein. But they're overshooting their protein goal to no other detriment than just taking in too many calories. And that can easily lead to some sort of body fat gain where they don't want to be there. And so I'm always going to tell someone, look, somewhere between 0.73 to 1 grams of protein per pound. I'm going to look at my notes so I can help you guys out that are international. But that was 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo. But that's really where we want to be. And I will tell you that, especially someone who's new to lifting, someone who is working out really hardcore, I want to make sure that we are going to be in an area that is going to be a little bit higher in protein. If you're older, you need more protein. If you are pregnant, you need more protein. If you're injured, you need more protein. So who is my population? If I'm talking with a 65-year-old that just injured his IT band, and this person was actually a female and they're somehow pregnant, like, we're going to have to make sure their protein's going higher, right? Just as an example. But also, if someone's been training for a long period of time, our body is actually better at utilizing this protein. So we don't need to actually go to the highest amount of protein either. And so we can stay towards that lower end. That can help save us some calories. It can make us maybe save more money in the food that we buy. It can also make sure that we're not feeling like we have to eat so much throughout the day. So it's a really helpful thing to understand where these thresholds are for, again, where muscle growth kicks off. So that's just like, that answers a lot of questions for people. But carbs, fat, that's where we can go next with all this too.
No, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you also when it comes to because the protein is one thing, but I know the other thing is that everyone is counting and looking at and really overthinking about is, like you said, is the carbs and the fat. And just like protein, there's good carbs and there's bad carbs, and it's the same with fat. There's good and bad fat. And it's just, again, it's the thing of people properly educating themselves. It's me, and I'm one of those people, like, I have a hard time, especially nowadays, really distinguishing what's good and what's bad to just put in the body. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, okay, I need to add weight, I'm just gonna eat stuff until I get heavy, you know what I mean? I don't really think about like what's good fat to put in my body. Should I just eat this burger, or it's like you said, should I eat a specific steak that I see online that they're telling me to get? Or, it's things like that you tend to overthink about. And again, it's just misinformation, or the lack of people putting in the time to do the research to learn that there's good versions of things. Because when you hear fat or you hear carbs, automatically people think, oh, we're not supposed to have any of that. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. So I don't need none of that. You know what I mean? When it comes to protein, people automatically just think meat. It's me, and I think meat. I don't even think protein powders or drinks or anything else. I just think steak. So it's things like that I know it's not anything but just the lack of my effort of trying to go in and educate myself, and me being lazy and just looking at like, okay, I just go by whatever I see in front of me. If I want to go work out, I just Google or I go on YouTube, what's a good workout? But I don't really focus or ask myself, okay, what type of body am I trying to get? Or what am I specifically working out for? Is it because I want to look fit? Is it because I want to be fit? Is it because I want to be healthy? Is it because I don't want to struggle to go tie my shoes? Or is it because I need it because my work asks that of me, of all the pushing and pulling and lifting and all this stuff like that? So it's a lot of things. And it's like you say, people need to just sit there and analyze their situation, themselves, their lifestyle, as well as what their main goal is, because a lot of people are going to take one way and copy and mimic someone else who has a different goal than them, and they're not going to get the results they're looking for. And then they're going to be like, what happened? I did everything that this person was doing. Why didn't I come out looking exactly like them? Or why is it that I'm not feeling exactly like them? And it's all trial and error, but at the same time, it's like you said, a good big majority of it is doing research, is sitting down and being patient with yourself and actually putting in the work to learn what your body needs, where your body's at, and where you're trying to take it. So you know exactly, like, there's certain, anyone can go to the gym and work out, but I guarantee if you do the proper research and you know exactly what you're supposed to be taking in, as far as whether it's a protein or carbs or fats, or hydrating yourself at a certain time or a certain consistency throughout the day of how much water you have to be taking, or whatever the case is, there's people that go and do it to the extreme, like I mentioned before, because they see everyone else do it and they think they need to take it to that level. And then there's other people that just go to the gym and they're actually able to enjoy themselves, and they don't dread the fact that they got to go there the next day, because they went and they did a good workout. They didn't burn themselves out. They didn't rip and tear their muscles to pieces just because they want to just be the person at the gym that looks like they're putting in all this work, and then they miss a whole week of the gym because they have to recover, not knowing that there's other ways to go about it, but you can still get the same results if you're just a little bit more patient and you respect your body enough to not damage it and not ruin it all the way to the core just because you want to look a certain way, because you're trying to play catch up. It isn't going to happen overnight. You know, it's going to take some time. And with that time, if you do it properly, it'll be a good experience. It won't be something you dread. You'll actually look forward to going to the gym, or you'll look forward to what you're going to eat for your diet, because you realize that just because you can't eat a certain thing doesn't mean it needs to be nasty. Just because you need to eat healthy, it doesn't need to be nasty, you know?
Oh yeah, man. I think, that if I could fast forward the conversation to where I probably would bring most, say, presentations, because a lot of times we do focus, and I love talking calories and macros because that's a language that I know is something that works, but we don't eat numbers. We eat food. And so a lot of people, their eyes start to glaze over once we get into some of these deeper areas and these deeper thinking around, now let's get really deep into what all of these other things are. And so the one thing that I want to make sure that we do is, and I always kind of walk someone through this, if we in our mind could picture a triangle, at the top of that triangle is always what I refer to as biological need, right? Whether you like something or don't, your body requires it, right? Whether you like to drink water or not, your body needs hydrating fluids. Whether you like to sleep or not, your body needs to rest and recover for physical and mental, psychological reasons. Whether you like or don't like protein, you need to have protein, right? You can eat at the low end or the high end, but it's still something that you need. You need protein. Same thing with the benefits of things like carbohydrates and fats, right? All of these things have to be there, but that's biological need, right? Even training, you don't want to go to the gym, fine. But you still need to do something to support you and maintain your muscle mass. Because the last thing you want to do is get to your early 60s, fall, hurt your hip, break a bone, because you start to sign your death sentence from that moment forward. Because once your body starts to break and hobble and doesn't work, that's where you're going to find yourself in a hospital more often. That's where you're going to find yourself with more chronic disease from even being around, hospital-acquired infections, all of these things. So we want to make sure we can keep people as healthy as possible. I was listening to something recently, and I think the question was stated, the life that you have right now, would you place your child in it? Would you place your child in your life right now? From the way that you utilize your time, to the way that you treat your body, to the way you treat your mind, to the way you treat your friends. And I think that a lot of people, maybe from a financial standpoint, professional standpoint, they're like, yeah, sure. Maybe they got their friends. But a lot of times I can think about that. And I think a lot of people, they might question if they would put their kids in the body that they've been taking care of to this point. And so if we can come from that standpoint, and this can get into a VeeDads conversation as well, but this is where I want someone to realize, like, you're not doing this for you, only you, right? I do end up saying, I think that you should put yourself first in most cases. If you don't put yourself first, if you're not happy, if you're not strong and healthy, if you're not financially secure for yourself, you're not financially secure, you're not healthy enough, you're not going to be stable enough for other people. So it's really important to take care of yourself that way. But getting back to the point of that biological need, right? Where I was talking about, like, thinking about that triangle. I'm always trying to get someone in the middle of this triangle. And so at the top of it, I'm always going to say is that biological need. I'll tell you what you need. And whether you want to do it or not, we're going to find a way to get it to you, because there's two other points. There's going to be satiety and structure, kind of how we eat throughout the day, right? How we're connecting with food in our body, right? How we're feeling it. Maybe we felt, I was just talking with someone today, right? He's a very prominent news broadcaster. He's such a great dude. I love talking with him. He like makes me smile more. He's such a great guy. But he was telling me, he was like, I feel so less inflamed right now. And I was like, wait a second, what do you mean? And we got down to it. And I was like, I just want you to know, like, when you tell me you're inflamed, that tells me that there's blood markers that I have to look at to make sure that you aren't immunocompromised. Because when we look at those blood markers, that's why you're inflamed. What was your last blood work? And he kind of shows them to me, and there's no issue, because inflammation is just a buzzword right now. I mean, it's a thing, but there's good inflammation, right? There is bad inflammation, but most of the time when we use it as a buzzword, we don't know what we're saying. But what he meant and what we got down to, he was talking about bloating, and not even bloating like from gas, just feeling full from his meal, because we had him eating less across the day. So he just wasn't feeling as full. And so when we finally broke it down, we were now connecting food with his body and speaking the language that we needed to. That's a really important thing. It didn't even matter what macros we were talking about, right? And so then we finally got to the point of talking about foods that he loves. And he was like, dude, I love my crunchy foods. And I was like, I'm all about it. Like, let's fucking talk about it. He's like, I can't have X, Y, Z, right? These crunchy foods that he loved. I always start with Doritos. Doritos are like my binge food. So, it was fitting some of these things into his life. And I was saying, look, as long as we got your protein down and we have your calories down, let's bring in some of those foods that you thought you couldn't have, because that's joy, that's connection, that's cultural connection, it's personal connection, it's connection with your community, it's connection in the city. I can't sit here and tell someone not to go out to restaurants in the city. That's crazy. It's just not going to happen, right? So it's like we as dietitians, sports dietitians, performance dietitians, even people who aren't dietitians, I know a lot of trainers that know nutrition so well, and I'm so impressed. And I'm like, listen to that person. I don't give a shit what their certification says or doesn't. They just know their stuff. Like, we know that happens. So it's something here now where I want people to really feel and understand that macros, calories, like, it's a thing. It's a part of the education of understanding your body. But if you don't talk about the next two things, satiety and structure, and satisfaction and joy with food, we're not doing anything for you. We're just pumping numbers into you, and we're just feeding that hole in your face. We're not showing you how or why to put it there. And that's the big thing. And that's the conversation. That's the connection. That's the client's love that we have to share with our people. So, that's the hardest thing to get across to people. I see someone saying, oh, it's you. It's you,
Yeah.
Roberto. You're saying you hate, hot Cheetos.
I hate hot Cheetos. I can't stand hot Cheetos, hot fries, like any of those. For one summer, I used to be addicted to it. When the mother of my kids was pregnant with our first kid, my daughter, she would always want like spicy stuff. And then one day I went and got she was just going through the phase where she wanted a specific spicy flavor and we couldn't find it. And then so one day I went and I got like all different types of spicy chips and spicy candy and like hot sauces and all this stuff.
Keep going. I just got to get a charger.
Yeah, do what you got to do. And in the middle of all that, she got stuck on these freaking hot fries. And of course, I don't know if anybody out there, when you have a significant other and they're going through pregnancy, whatever they eat, you eat. And it's like a thing that happens. If they gain weight, you're definitely gaining weight. And she was on this like hot fries kick for a while. And one day I ate so much hot fries that I didn't eat anything else. And at the end of the day, I was throwing up nonstop, all this hot fry. And I was like, never again. So hot fries or hot Cheetos or any of those, I can't stand none of that type of stuff. It's even Doritos. And sometimes I don't even like to go near them because it just reminds me a little bit too much of that experience. But yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. I completely agree. And I actually like the fact that you mentioned that as long as people are keeping to what they're trying to do or what the diet that they set, and they're getting the proper intake of whatever it is that their body it needs and is asking for, that it's okay for them to treat themselves. It's okay to have that snack or whatever it is, as long as they're not doing it excessively and they're monitoring it, and it's not something that's going to be they're going to lose control over it, and it's just going to put them over the edge in the sense of them taking too much of the bad stuff compared to what of the good things that they're trying to take in their body that's trying to help them. But the fact that you mentioned that, I like that. A lot of people don't mention things like that, and they look at it like that's it, like if it's cocaine or crack or something, like never again, don't touch it, or it's just going to lead you down.
Hold on, let's pump the brakes for a second.
Yeah.
No, but you know, I think the one area that I really have a hard time with is when we start talking about intuitive eating. And it's not the fact that intuitive eating is wrong by any means. I think it's great. But I do think that intuitive eating didn't do a good enough job of actually explaining what intuitive eating is. And I think that some people had taken the message of, you honor your body and you eat when you're hungry, and hunger is a bad thing. I mean, hunger is a great thing. Hunger can make a meal taste better. Hunger can make you look forward to a meal. Hunger brings excitement to something. Hunger is a natural feeling that we have to have. So to really shut these things down is an issue. So, you know, intuitive eating is a part of how we can approach nutrition when we look at calories and macros and everything else. But when we take, when we take the things that out of context from intuitive eating, we've done something wrong. So my wish is that a lot of these strict intuitive eating counselors start to come in a little bit more, and they can maybe say certain things of like, calories and macros matter. We just don't focus on them, but I'm going to make sure that I'm teaching you, how to navigate that. That's going to be good, because you can't go around eating whatever you want whenever you want. It's just not the truth. I always tell people that restriction leads to rebellion. And Gilberto, whether it's money, sex, food, online gambling, Be Friends cards, whatever you want to talk about, if you try and restrict yourself too much, you will rebel from it. And so it's something here where, some restriction is necessary. But when we define restriction appropriately, or we give the nuance behind it, or we don't accept the fact that we're just in this, very binary world and say like it's either yes or no, that's not how we can approach these things. And so I think when we come to nutrition, you're not going to get what you need in these 30 seconds to 60-second clips that you're going to get on Instagram or TikTok. Like, get some ideas, get excitement, get some motivation from it. But man, if we can kind of just be a little bit more introspective, if we can make sure we stay curious, if we can make sure that we're not trying to sign up for one camp because we're so used to signing up for just one political party, we're going to be in a better spot with our body and our mind and everything. So
I agree with you, man. And it's like you said, man, it's like anything else. Like it's like what Gary says, you have to go out and taste. You have to taste everything. You have to give everything a try. Like if you're trying to go on this journey and you're trying to take it seriously and you want to see some results and you're tired of saying, oh, tomorrow or all next time or I'll try this, or it's not hard. It's just about being patient and being disciplined on yourself, doing the proper research, making a list, getting some paper, tracking things down, looking at like, going to the doctor, getting yourself checked, seeing what the state of your body is, what you need, what you don't need, what you need to get rid of, and start from there. And then just little by little taking baby steps. I just feel like a lot of people get overwhelmed. It's like you said, they go online and they see all these clips. They go to the search engine, the search section of whatever app, and they put in gym or workout or healthy eating, and then you get bombarded by all these things. And I always say this, you never know who you're really supposed to listen to, who's really the person that's looking out for you, or that's actually just trying to be helpful in the sense of giving you real information. And then there's just so many other people that are just, it's like you said, there's so many different camps and groups and programs, and they just want to get you on there, and you're just a number or a name on the list. And it's like they really don't have the experience or the certification, I guess you can say, in the sense of having real firsthand experience to teach you anything that's actually going to be beneficial to you. They're just going to sit there and repeat whatever it is that they're seeing online, and they see everybody else doing whatever's popular. And it's hard. But like, it's no different. It's like you said, when it comes to like, whether it's financially or anything with your health, all these things are not easy, but they're all things that we know. It doesn't make our life better, but it does make our life a shit ton fucking easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's the money that you have more of, or whether you have a healthier lifestyle, it's not easy. It's not easy to go and work hard and save up money and put in the time. It's not easy to make money. It's not easy to save money. It's not easy to get in shape. It's not easy to stay in shape. But these are all things that 100%, no matter where you look at, it's all over the place. You can find the information for it. You can find people that are willing to help you or guide you or coach you or whatever it is that you want to look at it as. But at the same time, the same way that there's people that want to help you, there's people that are trying to take advantage. There's people that are trying to misinform you, because it's like you said, there'll be more people on this side or on the other side. And all they're trying to do and what they're really worried about is making whatever group they're a part of more popular than the other. They really don't care if it's this is really the proper, there is no right or wrong way to do it. It's just the fact of doing it and doing what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, what's beneficial to you, and what works for you. Because it's like you mentioned before, also, you had a couple people, one was struggling with actually being able to go to a party just because of the fact that he didn't want to be around the cake and he needed to. It's things like that a lot of people don't understand. It may sound silly to someone else, like, really, you didn't go to a party because of it? Yes, sometimes it's that hard. It's no different than trying to avoid being in a certain group of people who do bad things, whether it's drugs or drinking or just making bad decisions, or even if it's just eating and they're always eating out and they're eating things that, one, you can't afford financially, you're always breaking the bank, or two, it's things that are no good for you and that you really don't even enjoy like eating, but you feel like you got to keep up with everyone else and you got to order the fancy steak or the big extravagant 54 cheese pasta, and like it's a lot of things that come into play. And it's like you say, it's all about basically just knowing yourself, checking your surroundings, paying attention to your lifestyle, and seeing exactly what's going to work for you to get you closer to that goal of just being happier. Because like everything that you were saying about the people that you're talking to, it's not even about, I just want to look good and be in shape and everything. You mentioned how the other person literally just made subtle changes of just not overeating throughout the day, and he was able to feel a lot better. It's like, it's little things like that people tend to not realize. Like, maybe you don't need to do something so drastic and crazy as going a full blown diet. Maybe you just need to just check what you're eating and just cut back a little bit. No different than money spending,
Yeah. So, what's the line I've been using so often, and I think that it's a good reminder because we've heard it before, but it grounds everyone into like, shit, you're right. Is when we just tell someone, it's like, look, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you are deciding that you don't want to do more or less of something, you're just going to remain where you're at. And it's okay to talk about that and bring those things up, but we have to find some levers that we're going to need to pull. And you know what I think too, because I see it popping up right now in the chat. I have an issue with small steps. I have an issue with people that are just only signing themselves up and reserving to the fact that I can only make small changes. And I'm not attacking you, brother, you know who I'm mentioning, but it's not that. I see it so often, and it's not that we have to overwhelm people, but I think that some people, they don't understand what the small step is doing. And so if we can define what that means, it's good. So like when someone tells me that they're going to make this small change and they're just going to, maybe walk a mile every day. Well, I love that. Of course I do. What's your expectation? Well, if I walk a mile every day for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to lose at least 5 pounds. No, you're not. That's not going to happen. Like, that is not the expectation that you are really setting yourself up for. And now it's just failure. So if your expectation is 5 pounds in 2 weeks, well, you're way off. If your expectation is that you just want to make sure that you're feeling really good, let's go ahead and do it. And then small steps are definitely good there. But a lot of people lie to themselves. And what they do is they say, if I just make these small steps, I know it's going to work out. I'm like, yeah, it will, 100%. When are you thinking it's going to work out? And not enough people ask that question and ask what someone's expectation is because they're not curious long enough. So if someone tells me, I do want to lose 5 pounds this month, and you know what? I'm going to go lift 2 times a week because that's what I heard to do. And you know what? I'm going to start eating more protein right now. By all means, make it happen. It's going to be great for you. And I want that for you. But you know what? Your weight loss goal does not really fit into anything you just said. And so people who just push these things out, take the small steps, just do this, just do that, you have to talk about what the expectation is. And this is the issue with communication. This is the problem when I think that a lot of people aren't actually speaking up and creating a community and creating a circle of people to have those conversations or talking with a professional. Because I want you to take small steps, but with the appropriate expectation. I want you to take big steps if that's more appropriate for you too. Can you do it? What are those big steps and how can we do it there? So I think people just throw out these terms. Take small steps. Balance. Balance is the biggest piece of bullshit in the world. Balance means nothing. And so if you really want to make a change, don't balance a thing. What are you doing? It doesn't mean anything. It's not defined by anything. Balance needs a definition. And if you don't have that, if you don't know what you want to achieve, you have nothing to achieve. If you don't know what you want, you have nothing to achieve. So it's just, I see people that set themselves up for failure so often because they're not getting the right support and they keep themselves in these comfortable circles using these comfortable terms. And so I just want people to be more empowered and know that you are more powerful than you think. Small steps, do it, but just lower your expectations.
No, I agree with you. I'm a person, I've done that to myself too. I got to be honest with you. I got to call myself out on that. I've told myself I'm going to start small, and I've done things like, oh, I'm going to park a little bit further so I can walk to the store instead of, parking so close. And it's like, I do those little things, but then later on in the afternoon, I'll be like, all right, I could have that one slice of pizza, but I know for a fact I can eat 4. So let me just eat those 4 instead of like, you know what I mean? So instead of making those changes on places that I know would have a drastic or more positive effect on me by like doing what I eat or having a longer workout or things like that, I would do like the minimal things to trick myself into thinking like, yeah, well, I've been parking far away every day, despite what I'm eating and everything like that. But regardless of what, I know those 100 steps from my car to the time clock or whatever is going to add up. And after 3 weeks, I know for a fact, like it's going to make up for like the 4 weeks that I didn't work out or whatever. Like my math in my head would be all over the place just because, again, I just want to find an excuse to be okay with that level of comfortability of saying that I'm trying or that I'm doing something when in reality I'm really not doing much at all. But
it's still great you made the change. You
exactly.
Just have to now this is the magic. Now you saying that and you're now bringing some accountability in. I can stay curious and now I can let you know. Look, you parking farther away is amazing. But if you think that that's something that you can indulge, because even like one piece of pizza, 300 calories on average, you walking a mile, whether you walk, you run, you crawl, you sprint a mile, you're burning about 100 calories. So you've erased, if you have an extra slice of pizza because you think you've made room for it in your diet, you've not done anything. And so now these small changes that you're making, they're great. But honestly, it's going to be something like we're lying to ourselves. And it doesn't mean like this isn't a hard-nosed answer. It's just an honest answer. And so this is that kind candor that we have to talk about. It's like, do it, but what does it mean? Define it. Stop with balance. It doesn't mean anything. And so that's what I come to. And again, I'm not attacking anyone. It's something that comes up often.
I hear you. And it just reminds me like that logic is like what I used to have. Like I said, like one thing that I used to do also, I used to live near 7-Eleven. And my logic was, I'm not going to take my car. I'm going to walk to 7-Eleven and it's going to burn fat. And then I'm going to order like pizza or hot dogs. And then I'm going to eat it on my way back to burn off the food that I just ate. And it's like I never ate anything. That was my logic back then, thinking like, yeah, it totally adds up. 3 or 4 blocks, I'd definitely burn off that pizza and hot dog that I got. It's not a big problem. Like,
yeah, it's a great habit with a health halo. That's basically what it is, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So it's anyway. We can talk about that forever. What I would love to do is just give a little bit, to take something away from this, because through all the research that we do, through all the implementation that we do with individuals too, I want to make sure that when we're hitting on that biological need area, I share with you guys that that 0.73 to 1 grams of protein per pound. Please go ahead, calculate that out. And if you haven't really understood how much protein that is, like that's my next step with people. Honestly, I know you're afraid of food trackers and they're annoying and whatever. Go food track just for a day, for a meal, and just go see what that actually is. And if you don't know what 4 ounces of something looks like, go measure it. And you know what? On a lot of packages, it just tells you that it's that much anyway. So go ahead and do that, because the education right there can mean the difference between long-term health or just short-term goals. But the other things that I like to make sure that we're focusing on, because I come from a muscle-centric standpoint, is we do need to make sure we talk about that the calories from carbohydrate and fat. So usually when we're looking at carbohydrate, we do need to make sure that we're getting more than 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilo, or 1.36 grams of carbohydrate per pound. So 1.36 grams of carbohydrate per pound. The reason why that's necessary is to make sure that we go through these glycolytic processes, which is just the utilization of carbohydrate to make sure that we leave room to build muscle from everything we're doing. And carbohydrate is associated with making sure that we actually have the energy to be explosive, to be stronger, to be more powerful in our workouts. And if you're not working out, well, we have an issue. But even if you're walking your 8,000 steps in a day, that's going to be something where you want to feel good doing it. And yes, there is an issue with eating an in-proportion amount of carbohydrate at certain times. Yeah, sure, whatever. But you have to make sure that you're looking at where your carbohydrates coming from, higher fiber, your vegetables and fruits. I got it. Like, don't tell me, like, I know this, you're preaching to the choir if you just think I don't. But it's the idea here of, like, we have to get to that amount of carbohydrate with the protein to make sure that we're definitely giving you enough carbohydrate for that muscle protein synthesis. And then lastly, again, just to make sure we have this to take away, we want to make sure that we're getting enough fat. And I want to make sure that we know that we don't have to eat a high fat diet. We don't have to by any means, although some people will tell you that you have to. But we also don't want to eat a low fat diet. Eating too low fat can be an issue, especially with females around menstruation, men around testosterone, just overall hormones in both sexes. But what we want to make sure that we're definitely doing is giving you enough fat to make sure that food tastes good, that we're also developing hormones, everything around. It's just so important, right? And so when we get there, we are looking at 0.45 grams of fat per pound. And then, for our international crowd here, that's 1 gram of fat, or it's greater than 1 gram of fat per kilo. But again, that 0.45 grams of fat per pound, right, that you can get in. Calculate these things out. These tend to be for leaner individuals. If you have maybe, a little bit more body fat and you really know that losing 10 pounds, 15 pounds of body fat is a goal, go with your goal weight. But you can take these numbers and you can start to calculate those out, how much you actually need. And once you do, it gives us a calorie number. Most of the time, it's going to hit somewhere between like 12.5 to 13 calories per pound right there. And that is the threshold. So when someone tells me, Ryan, I want to stay lean but build muscle, we have a starting point. And now we can really give people the result that they actually want. And if we need to now give them more for more that they're doing in their life, then we definitely can. If there's going to be IBS or IBD, or if there's diabetes involved, an autoimmune disease, or something else that we have to deal with, maybe a mental health crisis, then we start to look at the composition of their food differently. We start to mix these things up a little bit more. And that's where really a registered dietitian from a clinical sense should be coming in. But that's where we can start with a lot of people. And if you need to take that away now and implement that, you can. And you're done. And that's where you start. And then you remain curious and you see exactly what you can do with any changes.
And I actually love that you're touching on that. So like we've already went over proteins, we went over carbohydrates, we went over some fats. And the other thing that I know a lot of people tend to worry about, or at least I do also, is hydration. Like there's protein, there's when it comes to water, like, is there anything else that you can drink besides water to get hydrated? Like the same way that there's different types of protein and there's different types of carbs and fats, there's good and there's bad. What's your take on when it comes to being hydrated and the certain liquids that they need to have in their body and things like that? Do they always have to just drink water and only water? If that's the case, what is the best water? What should they be looking for in their water? If water isn't the only way that they can get hydrated, where else can they get hydration from? Like, can you give us a little bit of information on your take on that?
Yeah. Look, you have to understand the person you're talking to. So if it's going to be one of my endurance athletes or professional athletes, you're going to get a different answer than like Steven sitting in accounting that's not really moving his body all that much, right? But what I will say, just to make it a fun answer, is the most hydrating liquid that you can possibly drink is similar to what someone else in the chat recently was just drinking. Dairy.
I'm about to look it up right here.
It's dairy across the board, though. So usually the thing that's going to be most hydrating can be a low-fat dairy. Now, we're not talking about anything other right now. I don't care about your allergy. I don't care if you like it or not. I don't care what you think about hormones being pumped into anything else. I don't care. But it's something where I will tell you that the most hydrating liquid is going to be your dairy, milk, right? And so when you have something like milk, you're just replacing the electrolytes that you just sweat out. And when you think about the electrolytes that you sweat out, what are those? Potassium, magnesium, chloride, calcium, missing one more. But anyway, all that's in milk, right? All that is right there, ready to go get in your body. And so a lot of times, that's something that we can make sure that we can get into, a lot of athletes, and we can get into younger kids. And, my daughter, we were in the store the other day, and like her first thought, I don't even know why, because it's never something we even talk about, but she wanted to grab a Gatorade. And it was like, I'm not someone to say no a lot. I'm not, but I wanted to really, put a proper understanding around what Gatorade is before we get somewhere else. And you know what? She ended up choosing a lemonade, and I let her have the lemonade. And the reason was because that to me was something that had a more appropriate meaning around it than having a sports drink, right? Let's have something, let's leave the sports drink for what it is, but now we have a lemonade. There's no guilt or shame around having some of the sugar, but I want to make sure it's like, but we don't need this high performance drink. Let's leave it for what is necessary. So that was something we talked about. But, things that have electrolytes, because really if we just drink water only and we're already depleted in electrolytes, water itself is depleted in electrolytes from what our body requires. So it can actually pull more electrolytes out of our body and make us more dehydrated. We're getting a little bit, deep into the whole, rehydration kind of space here. But, I think most of us are going to get most of the electrolytes we need simply by eating our food. If we're eating enough calories, enough macronutrients, and then we can just get our water in just fine. And, city tap water can be good. Well water is perfectly fine. You can get your bottle, whatever you want to do. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Eat your meals with electrolytes. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure you're getting enough fiber from your colorful foods. And, I have ways to break that down for everyone. But once you do, don't get crazy, right? When you get into these like rehydration packs and everything, I love them for the simple reason that people drink more water when they have them. That's the only thing I like about them. I don't think that we need to be drinking more sodium and potassium and magnesium in these bits. Now, do I need a lot of my athletes taking in more magnesium? 100%. But is it something that we need, just the average parent always just like pumping 7 of these hydration packets into them in 3 hours? No, we don't need that. It's just, you're spending it's just marketing. So if we can make sure we're drinking enough water, and, I would definitely transition to a thought here, I think, to wrap up something that, I created as a way to get away from that biological need for people, because calories and macros, people they get turned off by it, and that's fine. But what we can do is focus on those other 2 areas, right? That structure, the satiety, and then also the satisfaction and joy. And so, this is all free. There's nothing here that I'm selling whatsoever, but, I created what I call Habit 24. And Habit 24 just takes a lot of these concepts. Like, it's not a fad, right? It's not some sort of diet. It's nothing like that. It's just teaching a proper way of eating, prioritizing what we need before we start to, get too complicated. And so what I tell people is there's 4 things that I want you to do. It's all based around the number 24, but 24 ounces of protein a day, which is like 1.5 pounds, 24 ounces of fruits and vegetables. We do 24 fluid ounces of water 4 times a day, which is where I wanted to get to answer your question directly of how much water. Because most people are going to need 2 to 3 liters in a day. And, that's going to be around, 90 ounces for most individuals, 80 to 90 ounces, something around there. So it really isn't an issue. And so, even I see Red Bull being put up in the chat right now, right? So like Red Bull, coffee, those are actually hydrating liquids. because people think that we urinate when we have caffeine, and it's true, but we don't urinate enough to actually make it a net negative type of liquid. So like you can still have those things and be just fine. So just again, what I want to bring people to is cut through all this and just make sure that you're getting your 24 ounces, and like look on the packages, just buy, I was just posting on this, but in a week, make sure that what you do, and again, I'm not saying just drink all your hydration and Red Bull right now, Nacho. It's not what I'm saying. Okay. So chill. That's what I'm saying right now. There's an issue around that, but I am just saying, you get it. Don't take it out of context, but drink your water. And I always say, all of these things we need to do early and often most of the time. If we need to walk more, drink more water, eat more protein, eat more fiber, do it more early and often, and you're probably going to find some success. But 24 ounces of protein in a day, 24 ounces of vegetable and fruit, 24 ounces of water 4 times a day. And I always say 2,400 steps 4 times in a day as well. If we can get someone just doing those 4 things, you probably erase the need to be coached, or you erase the need to actually dive so deep and find flaws within your nutrition right now. That doesn't mean it's the only thing you need, but if you do that, you're likely getting enough protein for everything you need. And there's higher fat proteins for more calories. There's leaner proteins for less calories. There's also going to be, when we talk about your 24 ounces of vegetable and fruit, why I say that is because that is the amount that's associated with populations, larger cohort studies that are showing that if you get that amount in of any kind of vegetable or fruit, avocado, potato fits in there too, beans fit in there. But obviously we're talking about carrots, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all your leafy greens. We're talking about beans and oranges, and we're talking about apricots and apples and all that kind of stuff too. Like all of those things that you're thinking of right now. And so it's not minimizing starches, but it's saying that if you get 24 ounces of those in a day in any kind of fashion variety, it is associated with reducing all-cause mortality. It's reducing your risk of heart disease. It's reducing your risk of bowel cancer. It's reducing your risk of diabetes. And so if we can focus on just those 4 things, I'm breaking that science down to you. I'm giving you a very digestible, pun intended, way of taking in everything that we know and just say, go do this, try it. And then once you've done it, come back and let me know how you feel. $0, 0 time invested with me. Just go do those things. You can look on my website, foodisfuelnyc.com/habit24. Go check it out. I've done it before. I've made it a challenge. I've had people win money. Ron Jordan, jumped in. He's won money on there before. Like, we've had these challenges and they're great. They can be life-changing. And then from there, we can change things up. The last thing I'll say about that, because I got here just telling you about hydration, I'm not telling you to restrict anything. I'm not saying that that's all you eat. I'm saying that that needs to be prioritized in your day, in any fashion, in any order, whatever you want to do. If you only like chicken, make it chicken. If you only like beef, do it. If you only like tofu, do it too. More variety is usually associated with a healthier lifestyle. But if you do those things, you will put yourself in a better spot. Okay?
I totally agree with you, man. And if anybody wants to go and get more information about Habit 24, please make sure that you go and give Ryan a follow. In a few seconds, I'm going to put the link to his website actually in the chat. Actually, let me do that right now if it lets me get in here real quick. There you go. That's the foodisfuelnyc.com website. I have it in the chat. Make sure that you guys go over there, check it out. Also, I put the link to Ryan's social media profile on X, as well as the same as his hashtag that he has right here on his name displayed under his video feed. So if you want to go and give him a follow, go and hit him up. If you're looking to get more informed on having a healthier, better lifestyle, you should definitely give Ryan a follow. He is the man of NYC, the dietitian of NYC that's going to give you all the information you need to get your life back on track, man. And so far we've been on here for an hour, and the chat's been going crazy here and there. We got Nacho in the chat. We got Bro Fit. We had Ellie in the chat not too long ago. We had Ali up in here. VeeDads was popping in and out. Who else? In case I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but thank you so much to everybody who came and stopped by and showed some love. I truly appreciate it for you guys. I truly appreciate you guys stopping by and kicking it with us in the chat. But before we leave and we get out of here, Ryan, I want to say thank you for stopping by once again and informing us on all this great, useful information. I hope that everybody is taking notes. I sure as hell was. I'm going to be looking more into a lot of this stuff. It's a lot of people might think that because the summer's over, it's time to just kick back and relax. And I don't think that. I think that it shouldn't matter what the season is, what the temperature's like. It's never a wrong time for you to get up, get active, and start taking your life more seriously and focusing on your health, especially for a lot of us, the people that are in the chat, me, myself. I'm a parent, and I'm noticing my kids growing up and they're getting older faster, and it's making me realize how time is going by. And the more time that goes by, I notice that I can't keep up with them like I used to. It's getting a little rough. And the only thing I keep thinking about is like, what can I do to not be winded going up those stairs, or like I mentioned before, bending down and tying your shoes and not having it hurt when you get up, or just walking for long periods of time, whether it's your regular day-to-day stuff or whether it's going to work and doing your daily duties. Regardless of what, we all need to be in shape, man. It shouldn't be a mission to get up out of bed. It shouldn't be a life or death decision to know if we're going to eat this or that. Or I think, if a lot of us just do the simplest things in order to start moving towards having a better, healthier life, like watching our diet, watching what we do in order to get some physical activity in our lives. I think the more consistent we are with that and the more aware of, what we're doing throughout our day to day, it'll help us all, and it's people like you that's doing their part, that's educating everybody, from the post and content that you share online to things like this. And I'm truly appreciative of it, man. I don't think enough of us are talking about staying healthy and being fit, especially putting it in a way where it lets us know that it doesn't need to be one way or another. There's many different options. There's different solutions, whether it's in dieting, whether it's financing, whether it's socializing with people, or whatever it is. There's never just one road to get to the results, or to where, or the place that you're trying to get to. And it's people like you that's out there that's showing us through your experience from doing it yourself, or working with other people, that you've learned that there's more than one way to get to where you're trying to be in life, and just be happy and just have a decent life, where you really just don't have to stress about something. Like we're all stressing about things, but it's good to have one less thing to stress about, especially something that's in our control. And I believe that, working out, staying fit, watching our diet is something a lot of us are in control of. We just tend to come up with the excuse that we don't have the time to eat properly. We don't have the time to go work out, but we have the time for a lot of other nonsense. We have the time to watch Netflix and to scroll on our phones. And it doesn't take that much to put it down, and in that same area, just stand up and do some jumping jacks, or some mandos, or some push-ups, or something, anything, squats. Or, anytime that you go out and you're saying you don't have time to cook and you want to stop and go get some pizza or some fast food, I'm pretty sure it's that same amount of time can go to you just going to the grocery store real quick and just buying some unfrozen chicken and some stuff really quick to just whip it up. And I don't know about you, but myself, I feel like food tastes a million times better when you do it yourself. So, little things like that tend to help, in moving you towards that goal. It's like you said, sometimes those little baby steps, we get a little too comfortable and it keeps us in that comfort zone. But if we take those steps little by little every day with the intentions of reaching a goal, with saying that we're going to start walking this week, and next week we're going to be running, and then after that we're going to be sprinting, or we're going to start by doing some jumping jacks today, and then tomorrow we're going to lift some weight, and then, little things like that. But it's like you're saying, we all need to make sure that we have a goal in mind. Like what's the outcome that we're trying to get? What's the end result? It's not just let's do this and hope for the best, but let's do this with an intentional action that's going to lead to something positive and productive for all of us.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, Ryan, is there anything else that you would like to share with us, whether it's anything that you have going on with VeeDads, anything that you have going on with your Food is Fuel podcast or your brand, anything whatsoever that you would like to share that you have personally going on, or anything that you would just like to give and end this podcast episode on to anyone listening, viewing, and tuning in right now?
I mean, as always, man, thanks for this space to talk, the conversation, and doing the research beforehand, and just the invitation to come on. The one thing I know that you were just talking about, just as it a quick bridge. And, I know I want to just be mindful of your time, so I'm not going to take up a lot here, but it's just the idea of what you're talking about, as you just said, right? The small steps are great with the appropriate expectation. The thing is, I know that a lot of us and a lot of men in particular, and especially dads that are busy and we're just physically and emotionally tired, it's something where we turn very internal. And so we set these goals and we set these expectations, but we keep them locked up in here. And the thing that we really are not good at, most of us, and if you think you are, I will probably be able to point out something that you're not, with the benefit of showing you examples that I'm not good at it either, but it's the accountability. So when you are setting these small goals, when you're making sure that you're actually putting yourself in the right mindset for the right expectations, set yourself in the right circles of people. You need to make sure that you communicate these things. If you are only talking to you, you have to be very careful, because one, negative thoughts that stay in your head only become more negative. And the positive thoughts and the goals that you're setting, if they get locked up in there, they usually don't go anywhere. So making sure that you have these conversations, creating a circle of people around you is definitely helpful. And just that little plug, obviously we were getting to it with VeeDads. It's definitely something that I want to make sure that, we had a chance to make sure that we name it something else. VeeDads and VeeMoms and VeeParents, but really close to my heart is the fact that I think that a lot of dads need a lot more support than moms do. Of course moms do, and I get that. But dads are not as good at it. And I don't think that many dads that are out there right now are getting the type of support that they need. I don't think that a lot of dads are getting the love that they actually deserve. I know many more stories of a lot of dads pulling a lot more weight than people give them credit for, or just pulling more weight in general than other people in their family. And that's no fault of anyone's. But it's the idea here that we have to create the circles around us to really be successful. And I think that VeeDads has been the excellent place, very selfishly, for me. And I know that. And that's why it's a passion project. But it's also something where I know a lot of other dads are getting from that too. So if you know of any dads that just want to be able to tune in, we got VeeDads. You can check us out 8:30 a.m. Eastern over on Twitch. Please come on in, check it out. We are always sharing some sort of, parenting, fatherhood meditation from Ryan Holiday. We're sharing that. We're talking about it. We're sharing gratitude. We're sharing our challenges. We're giving call outs. We're keeping people accountable to their goals that they're actually setting, whether it's their step goals, not drinking as much alcohol, not yelling at their kids, all of these kind of things that we're trying to help dads with and connect. But set your macros, set your calories, think about what you're going to eat, do all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to be honest, the one lever that we can all pull just a little bit more is that social lever. And it's a hard one for dads. It's a hard one for men in general. But if you can pull that in the easiest way, and I think VeeDads is an excellent bridge for anyone looking for some support. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
No, I love it. And thank you so much for that, Ryan. I totally agree with you. VeeDads I've been doing my best and tuning in more often and jumping into the conversation.
Thank you so much.
And I truly, I love what you guys are doing. I always have. I've just had a hard time trying to pop in here and there. But it's something that I've been trying to jump in more, because it's like you said, it's not easy for fathers to be social. And I think that's something that we need to take advantage of when it comes to the social media stuff. There's like this whole thing where everyone thinks it's just you post and you keep this mysterious type of thing where you don't answer or you wait if someone hits you up a day or so. And I think all of that is just nonsense. I think we all need to start utilizing these social media platforms to do exactly what they were created for. And that's to be social with each other, to connect with each other, to network, reach out, share thoughts, ideas. And right now with the way that the world is, I feel like a lot of people are closing themselves off. We're finding more excuses to not reach out and communicate and share with one another than anything else. And I believe that that's a huge downfall for a lot of us. So the fact that you're putting yourself out there, you and Blaze, and you guys go out there and you share from your firsthand experiences of what it's like to be a dad, as well as, listening to other people's stories. And you guys not only are listening, but giving feedback and giving your advice from similar situations that you've been through. And a lot of it is just helpful. It's like you're saying, I strongly agree with you also. And I believe that it is a great place to start when it comes to trying to break out of that uncomfortability of being social and sharing and listening and talking and just being open. I think it's a great space to start. Everyone, again, I put the VeeDads X account on in the chat. The reason I keep sharing X, if anyone is curious, I believe that X is not because I'm more leaning or favor X over anything else. I just think X has the advantage over other social media accounts in the sense that it's just right on time. You're talking to each other one-on-one. You don't have to really worry about the feed or the algorithm. You're just directly talking to who you want to talk to. It's like a 24/7 all the time active text message that you can just reach out and talk to people. And I think that's just a great place to go and to start interacting and to get information and everything. A lot of communities are being built on X, but also Ryan also has his own Instagram, and I'm sure he has Facebook and YouTube and everything like that as well as a Twitch channel. All the information to all of Ryan's accounts, whether it's the Food is Fuel NYC accounts of his personal stuff or any of the VeeDad stuff, I'm going to have all of their social media accounts in the description below. Make sure that if you want to go and catch up with Ryan or go check out a VeeDads episode and live stream, that you go and do so. Give them a follow, subscribe, and make sure that you hit them up. I'm sure that you'll enjoy the conversations that they're having on VeeDads, and I'm more than sure that you'll receive some very beneficial information through the content that Ryan shares on his social media platforms and everything that he does. Again, Ryan, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate your time, and thank you so much to everyone who came and kicked it with us in the chat. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everyone, again, make sure you go and give Ryan a follow, show him some love, give him a follow, give him go subscribe to VeeDads. And yes, I hope that you all have a great night. Stay safe. I love you guys. Peace.